someone who, God forbid, suffers from anorexia.
They really
And
believe that their body
and their
is,
mind,
yeah,
their mind
yeah,
has literally convinced
right,
themselves
yeah,
that they are overweight when in reality they are actually the opposite and they be
yeah.
unhealthily thin.
Good morning, Parshat VaYigash. And this is Parshat Chassidut. Today we're going to actually be reading commentary by the Ishbitzer. Uh, so I don't think we've ever studied him before, and I always like his. He's very psychological, and I'm going to share again for those of you who want to have the text independently up in front of you. You can find the text on Sefaria.org, and I'm going to share the screen here for just a moment. So it's Genesis chapter 44, verse 18 is the beginning of the parsha. And the verse is VaYigash elav Yehuda. That's the opening of the parsha. Then Yehuda went up to him. Vayomer bi Adoni edaber na avdecha. And he says to him, this is Judah approaching Joseph. And he said to him, please, my Lord, let your servant appeal to my Lord. דבר באזני אדוני ואל יחר אפך בעבדך, and do not be impatient with your servant. בעבדך כי כמוך כפרעה, you who are the equal to Pharaoh. A very dramatic moment, and we will be looking at later at the commentary by the Ishbitzer, and again you can find it in Sefaria, in Chassidut, Mea Shiloach. It's out of his famous book, Mea Shiloach. This is Mordechai Yosef Liener of Ishbitz, 1801 to 1854, middle of the first half of the 19th century, great Rebbe.
The Ishbitzer today, it's amazing that you, doubly amazing that you picked him today, because it's by Hashgacha Pratis, by divine providence, that you picked him, which in itself is interesting because the Ishbitzer was big on Hashgacha Pratis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm teaching about it. And what's the Hashgacha Pratis? Out of the 354 days in a Jewish year, the 365 days in a year, Zion Tavis, which is in a few days, happens to be the yard site
Uh-huh.
of the Ishbitzer.
I
And he
see.
passed away, Parshas VaYigash,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that year. And this Shabbos is Zion.
I see.
Today is Dalit. Today is the fourth day of the Jewish month of Tavis.
Yep.
This Rebbe passed away on the seventh day of the month of Tavis. So it's amazing that you, by Skacha Pratis, chose the Ishbitzer today.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor. Sometimes you get on the wavelength, you know.
Sometimes you get it, man. Sometimes you're on the wave, you pick up the wave. But and a lot of interesting things about him. He was a little bit controversial in his time, as are all great leaders and
Indeed.
innovators.
Yeah.
He started out as a Talmid of the Kotzker, the famous Kotzker Rebbe, who was known for his sharp wit and very sharp ideas. But there was called the Great Split between this student, who became the Ishbitzer, and the Kotzker, and they became two schools. And it was a big deal within the Hasidic world at that time. A lot of beautiful, interesting stories about him. In any event, let's get back to our story very quickly. Let's do the setup. So as everyone is familiar, the last few weeks we've been dealing with the life story of Yosef Atzadik, Joseph, and we know that the brothers threw him in the pit. He got sold to Egypt. Now, last week, many things happened. And
Yep.
it's all Yosef's way of helping his brothers to do teshuvah.
Yep.
for the great for the things what they did to him, and he's helping them by treating them very harshly, seemingly in a harsh manner. Anyway, the brothers come down last week to get food because the famine extends into the land of Israel, and they know that there's food in Egypt because of the great advice of Yosef Tzaddik, of Joseph. So they come down. He recognizes them; they don't recognize him, because when he was taken as a servant in Egypt, he was a young man with no beard, and now he's got a beard, and he was young, and now he's 30 years old. In any event, this gives him an opportunity to put them through the ringer, as we say. He accuses them of being spies. He asks them a million questions. Now, at the end of the parsha, he chases after them. He sends soldiers to chase after them, to accuse them of stealing the goblet. And he brings all the 11 boys, 10 actually, Shimon is in jail, all the boys back. And he accuses them of stealing the goblet, and that they're all going to be slaves to Joseph in Egypt. Now, to bring us to the first pasuk here, the entire time that this is going on, the brothers, Yehuda as the king, they're going along. They're complying. Yeah. They know that they are innocent of everything they've been accused of along the way here with this story. I left out a lot of details, but they're going along. They're hoping that it will all work out, and that in the end they've done nothing actually wrong. At this point, Yehuda cracks, as our sages teach us on this first verse. Before we get into the Hasidic interpretation, the simple pshat is that it says he spoke harshly with him. At this point, they were, as I said, they were going along with him. Now he says, enough. This is nonsense. Why did you have to ask us? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? He goes crazy on Yosef, and he puts his foot down. Enough. I am not going to allow you any further to make these false accusations. And we're going to fight you now if we need to. And as we know, now Yosef will acquiesce. You've done the teshuvah, and he's going to reveal himself to the brothers. But this is the climax of the fight, where Yehuda starts to fight back.
Right. So, and this is good context for the Ishbitzer. Right. He comes in and takes it like again, drops deeper and and gives us a lesson, which I think is wonderful. So so here we go. So VaYigash Rav Yehuda, this is a quote from the first three words of the Pasha, and Yehuda approaches to him, meaning Yosef. Hinei ze hakoach natan Hashem yitbarach b'shevet Yehuda. And this shows the potential, the force that the Holy One, blessed be, has given to the tribe of Yehuda. And what's that force? Sheino me'aesh atzmo le'olam, who never despairs, never becomes desperate. Right? There's something beautiful about that, right? He's not going to be defeated.
This idea that up until in the simple story, it appeared as if they were so knocked down. First, the guy accuses us of spies, and he does this, and you could get knocked down. And it even appears from just a few psukim ago that Yehuda, also the brothers, had given up. He says, okay, we give up. We're your servants. What can I do? It's all crazy. I have no idea what's going on here. We didn't do anything wrong. All of a sudden we find money. Then we find your stupid cup. And we didn't do anything, but okay, what can we do? I said that if you catch us, we'll be slaves. So I guess we're done. Yeah. But here he girds his loins, so to speak. He puts himself up by his bootstraps.
That's right.
And he finds his inner strength of not being VaYigash.
That's right. He connects with a piece of him that is not going to give up. Right. Even though he sees that, this thing is just washing over him. I mean, it's just overwhelming. And by reason, you would think that he would, and he is, and they are, kind of feeling overwhelmed and acquiescing. והנה בפרשה הקודמת אמר, הננו עבדים לאדוני, and the Ishbitzer says that, and you can see that in the previous parsha. This is just a few psukim before. It says, Hinenu avadim laduni, we are your servants. I mean, they're completely bowing down to Yosef and giving in. And it could have seemed as if he is really giving up. והיה נחשב בעיניו כשגיאה מה שהתחייב את עצמו לאביו בשתי עולמות על בנימין, and he's regretting that he has obligated himself to his father to, by his portion in this world and the portion of the next world, that he would be guarantee Benjamin's
Safety.
Safety.
Right. This is in the previous parsha. Just that he's inferring here from the previous parsha when he kept Shimon and he said, "Bring me back now. Go back home. Bring me back the youngest brother." So I prove to me that you're telling me the truth. When they go, of course, Yaakov Avinu, Jacob the father, he says, "Are you crazy? I lost Yosef, and now you tell me Shimon's sitting in a dungeon in Egypt, and now you want me to
Benjamin,
my youngest? Are you crazy?" So they said, "Well, hold on, we're going to run out of food, and then you'll change your mind." And sure enough, he did. But Yehuda is the one that steps up to the plate and says,
That's
"Father, I personally guarantee." And our sages teach us they guarantee. I give up this world. I give up my place in Olam Haba in the next world. I personally guarantee the safety of Benjamin, the youngest son. So that's what he's alluding here to.
That's right. And what's interesting is that, Reuven, you also have this dynamic between Reuven and Yehuda. We don't have to get into it, but this is for the second time. Reuven also offers this kind of guarantee, but Yehuda is the one Yehuda is the real leader. So we already see Yehuda's character, that his father trusts him, but then he loses trust in his own character here, says the Ishbitzer, right? Because he is, if anybody can guarantee, Yehuda can, right? And he's even doubting himself.
Right.
So I think that's where the Ishbitzer is going. It's not only is his self doubt. He doesn't trust himself anymore. It's kind of like, it's not only that the situation is deteriorating, he is deteriorating. He's losing his own that confidence that he had to say to his father.
Yep.
I mean, can you imagine? He really put himself he put his own personal word on the line. I mean, this is like, it's beyond just, his poor brother. This is his whole, um, the whole essence of who he is as this leader who's confident, his word stands, and that whole thing is deteriorating here with Benjamin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people can appreciate the crisis is not only a crisis for his father, for the brothers, it's also a personal crisis for him about his ability to, to be the leader that he is.
And to
Anyway,
be successful, right? No, it's exactly right. That's what the Ishbitzer is getting to. Where does he draw upon? And of course, the Nimshal is for all of us, because obviously we know that the Torah, the lessons in the Torah for us now, today, here, where do we find the inner strength when we suffer a crisis of confidence? That's where he's getting to. So where did Yehuda draw upon at the last moment to all of a sudden get his mojo back, as I think they said.
Yeah. Well, let's see where he goes there. ובזאת הפרשה התחזק עצמו מאוד לפני השם יתברך. But in this parsha, the whole parsha begins with, he finds his strength again, and by standing before the Holy One, blessed be, שאף שעשיתי שלא כהוגן, ממילא יש יכולת ביד השם יתברך להושיע לי. And he says to himself that even though I failed and I made bad judgments, nevertheless, God, the Holy One, has the ability to redeem me. So he basically leans into faith. I don't see the solution, but I'm going to lean on my creator that a solution is here to be found. I think that's
Yeah, and I think also he's saying that the issue is in ruchnius. In other words, my failure is due to my shortcomings as a human, not
mhm,
because I bet on the wrong stock. I
mhm.
ended up betting on the wrong stock and losing it because there's a fault within me that created a negative energy
I
in the
see.
universe that caused it to manifest with stuff going wrong in my life. But what he's saying here, he's coming to a typical Hasidic vart. He's coming with a taina to Hashem. He says, "I know I've been at fault. I know we were wrong, but you're still not allowed to do this. You can't. You got to give me a chance to do tshuva. You can't
Yeah,
just break me down completely."
I see. So you're saying that what he's saying here is he's saying it to Hashem. He's not saying it to himself. He's saying
Yeah,
you can. Yeah,
the king
yeah.
Joseph represents God here.
I see. I see.
I think we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going here with Ishbitzer. V'zeh vayigash elav Yehuda, and this is what it means. And Yehuda approached him, meaning Joseph. Elav, היינו במעמקי ליבו של יוסף, עד שהיה מוכרח להתוודע להם. That Joseph, well, this is a spiritual approach. That Yehuda is approaching the depths of the heart of Joseph. So much so that Joseph was forced by that to eventually reveal himself.
Hmm.
Yes, that's. I mean, there's something really powerful about that. That to what you said about this is an issue of ruchnius. Not only that it's an issue of ruchnius that that he's challenging God, but also that he's reaching into the spiritual place inside Yosef. It's like I'm not going to fight with with your externality. I'm going to reach into your heart. I think
Mm-hmm.
is what the Ishmael is saying here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So much so that Joseph could withstand it and then had to reveal himself. Okay,
Right.
game over. You touched my heart. Game over. You're my brother. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Right.
But imagine that because he doesn't know that he's his brother. Nobody knows that they're talking to their brother. I mean, the whole thing is the setup is so fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
כי כל הפסוקים הללו הם טענה נגד השם יתברך. Here's he says that all these everything that Yosef is saying is really a claim against God. It's an argument with God, and
Right.
that's here where you.
Vayigash a love. It doesn't say Vayigash el Yosef. It says Vayigash a love. This opens up an opportunity. It doesn't say he approached Joseph, even though he did. It says he and Yehuda approached him.
Him,
So
right?
this opens up the door for interpretations like
Who is him? It's
saying
God.
that who's him is God.
Yeah, yeah, understood.
Just to clarify.
So, היה סובר שעומד לפני מלך גוי ומתווכח עמו. Now, I mean, Yehuda may have thought on the ordinary level, in ordinary consciousness, that no, he's staying before a great king, the second to the Pharaoh, and putting up an argument. I mean, standing up for himself, which in and of itself, the courage that takes. I mean, he's sort of like jumping into the fire in a
Mm-hmm.
way, putting himself at risk. וכאשר שלח להם השם יתברך הישועה, but when God sends them redemption, which is, I think what he means here by redemption is that all of a sudden it all turns around and Joseph is their brother. The redemption is the moment of revelation, right?
Mm-hmm.
אז ראו שגם למפרע לא היו בסכנות. All of a sudden they understand that they were never really in danger. The whole long thing was really, now they're discovering that it was a game or it was a process. I don't want to say game as playing games, but it was a whole process, and they were never really in danger. It just appeared that way
Right. Right. It was an opportunity to
for them
do
to do teshuva.
for them to do
That's yeah,
teshuvah, for them to
yeah.
repent of their bad
Right.
deeds earlier on in their lives, and it's unbelievable this idea that Lima Freya
Right.
retroactively
That's right.
we see at the end of the story that the beginning and the middle of the story weren't what we thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of mind bending in a way.
Yeah,
כי באמת היו מתווכחים עם אחיהם. Well, they were never in danger because they know that they were having the argument with their brother.
yeah,
וכן לעתיד כאשר יושיענו השם יתברך ויפדנו, and also in the future. Now he's talking more sort of like end of days, right? If you could say cosmically, when the great redemption will come, when God will redeem all of us from everything, basically, right? That's the kind of the coming of Mashiach. אז יראה לנו השם כי לא היינו בגלות מעולם. Then God will reveal to us that we actually were never truly in exile. ולא משל עלינו שום אומה. And no other nation really had any control over us, just God alone.
yeah.
And
This psychological interpretation of Gullus is quite a revelation. You know, when a person is suffering, God forbid, from a mental illness, they can convince themselves pretty convincingly that whatever they're thinking is true, is objectively true.
mhm,
You know, someone who, God forbid, suffers from anorexia,
they really
and
believe that their body
their
is,
mind
yeah,
their mind
yeah,
has literally convinced
right,
themselves
yeah,
that they are overweight when in reality they are actually the opposite and they be
yeah,
unhealthily thin.
yeah,
And here we're seeing that that the gullus is a mentality
yeah,
based on our spiritual
right.
standing.
That's right.
And then when we get to where we need to be and make that correction, that self correction as individuals and as a community and as a people, the revelation will be that yeah, I'm right here, but now I'm in a state of geula. But
Yeah,
I didn't go anywhere, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Nothing changed actually, except me.
yeah. You
That's
know,
really
it reminds me. I want to tell you something. It reminds me of a moment. I was, Rabbi Scheinberg at the Kotel. You know about
yeah.
him? He's considered like a saint, a Kabbalist, like a special person. And we got many years ago. I was in Israel, and I was got myself somehow invited to come to. We went to the minyan with Rabbi Scheinberg, and then we got invited to his house afterwards. To for the
Wow.
Suda and on Shabbat. And what was interesting was I was an Israeli who was living in America, and there was another guest there who was an American rabbi who was like a conservative rabbi, modern kind of guy, who was somehow also got invited. I did not know the other person, but there were several people. It was a packed house. Let's say we were like sardines in there, but the guest of honor, the Orech HaKavod, was this guy who was kind of rabbi from somewhere suburban synagogue in America, and Rav Scheinberg was giving him a lot of honor. Really, really. He sat next to him and talking to him, and then at some point he gave a Dvar Torah, and he said, some people live in Eretz Israel, but really live in Galut, and other people live in Galut, but they're really, like you're saying, they're really in Eretz HaKodesh. And when he said that, it just kind of flipped me, because specifically I took it personally because here I am an Israeli in Galut, you know and then he's telling me that he really was making kavod, and really somehow honoring this rabbi who I did not know, and I don't know what his chut was, but apparently, he was this was Rabbi Scheinberg was referring to him as somebody who lives in America, but is really his heart is in Eretz Israel, in redemption. So it's exactly what you're saying here. The Ishbitzer is saying this is kind of cosmic. I think he's also what I hear. What I take is that there's something almost universal about that. That we go through life, especially with troubles. Troubles come upon us, and we can get into this narrow. There's this king over me, oppressing me, but we don't know that really we're being given the gift to discover how something of redemption nature that is there for us as an opportunity, which is challenging. I think
Yeah,
that's what he's
and by
saying.
the way, yeah, I'm sorry. And in this not self-awareness that you're speaking about, I think to get back to the beginning, the other point you made at the beginning was that this is where we can find the inner strength with this with this awareness that we're working on many different levels here,
Yeah,
and we shouldn't take it personally.
right.
Something goes, off the rails in our lives. Wait a minute. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Why did that go off the rails? What's
yeah,
happening with me? What's happening with me in my relationship with the world, with God,
exactly.
with myself? What's going on here? This is interesting. And
Right.
then we
Right.
find the inner strength to analyze ourselves honestly and find our Yehuda.
But also the inner strength or the inner acceptance to ask, what does God want from me? Is what is being communicated to me from on high. So I see it going both ways. What do I need to repair in myself? Um, here, so I can spiritually align. But also, is there a message for me? And I mean, the message clearly is teshuva, because I mean, kabbalistically, it's an opportunity for tikkun, for repair. And according to this story, I mean, clearly these brothers, they had it coming. Who
Yeah, this
sells
was
their brother? Who
right.
sells their brother to slavery?
This was a heavy duty tikkun, that
Yeah,
had to get. It took a lot of aggravation and effort and a lot of stress and tension, and
yeah.
even for Yosef himself, like what the relationship there, and to heal that.
Well, I think the point of the strength of what the Ishmael is saying here is that Yehuda, he didn't just sit there and accept and contemplate. He faced the issue. He went
Mhm,
right into it.
mhm, mhm,
I think that's what he's saying here in the Baal Shem Tov. Actually, that's consistent with the Baal Shem Tov. There's a story about how the Baal Shem Tov knocks the wolf on the forehead. You know that story where the Baal Shem Tov is the Rebbe's helper, and he's walking with the kids in the forest, and a big wolf comes at them, charging, and the kids all run away. And the Baal Shem Tov takes his staff and knocks the wolf on the head, and goes towards it instead of running away, and the
mhm.
wolf drops dead. And anyway, the story goes on from there. I don't want to take too much time on it, but it's like going into the facing the trouble head on, and with confidence, with that kind of inner strength that you have to rediscover. That's what really touches me. It's not easier said than done, but
Well,
we
and that's why we have the Ishbitzer to help
that's
us
it,
out.
exactly. So we shall be blessed with that, with the strength to find the redeeming element in the troubles that face us, and face it heads on. And that's what we got here for today. And folks, thank you for being with us. If you enjoyed this, please sign up for our YouTube channel, subscribe, and give us a like. If you're seeing us on Facebook, you can still go to the YouTube channel. It's accessible. We all know how to do that. Leave a comment. Let's keep the conversation going. And that's it for now. Shalom till next Wednesday.
מים רבים לא יוכלו לכבוש אהבו